All right, hello. We are excited to have Jennifer Ramanuj with Cardell Homes with us today for our leadership conversation. For an intro, my name is Tara Lee. My company, Next Level Challenge, specializes in building teams that work. We launch leadership conversations to help teams and leaders be their best, and nothing does this more than learning from experiences, both our own and those of others. So this is why we love talking to great leaders like Jenn, who have done really great things with their teams. So we're looking forward to hearing from you today and some of the challenges that you have overcome with your team, and then sharing Jenn's story with others looking for inspiration. So some background, I've known Jenn for about 3 years, I believe, and have have a great deal of respect for you, Jenn, as a leader. Cardell has been a leader in the home building industry in Calgary since its beginning in 1973. As we all know, our economy has proved challenging over the last number of years, and like everyone, Cardell has had to overcome many challenges. So I know Lisa has been a valuable resource to her team throughout all of this, providing thoughtful and dedicated leadership. So Jenn, it's great to have you here with me today.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So let's get started. So tell me a little bit about Cardell and the team that you work with here.
Cardell is a residential home builder, and we have offices in Calgary, Ottawa, Tampa, and Denver. Our total head count is just under 200, and so each of those regions would support anywhere between 30 and 50 people, and then our corporate office is here in Calgary as well. Yep. The team's made up of office personnel, estimators, drafting techs, your typical business support,
yep.
And then obviously our site construction personnel and our sales force.
So what is it that makes Cardell super unique in the market?
In the marketplace, I think it's still one of the original family-owned and operated businesses, which makes it unique. Yeah. So it definitely still has a family-owned grassroots feel in terms of the culture and the way we make decisions and our ability to move forward in the industry and define who we are against some of the larger players and some of the smaller boutique players.
Awesome. So what is one of the greatest team challenges that you have had to overcome, and how did you solve it?
It would be back in 2005, 2006, 2007. The industry was booming in Calgary, and we were experiencing sort of unprecedented volume and growth. And at the time, we took the approach of dividing the city into north and south, and sort of making sort of identical teams both from north and south, with the intention of creating efficiencies and being able to focus on sort of a workable amount of volume. And in fairly short order, the unintended consequences of that decision were the creation of silos between north and south.
Gotcha.
And redundancies and inefficiencies and less collaboration and more competition. And so we started to hear the North was going to beat the South, or we're better than. And from a company standpoint, you don't want there to be a winner and a loser. You want everyone to be winning.
One team, right?
So we really had to take a look at what was the monster we had created, how had our unintended plan created that. And so we really had to take a look at what was causing it, what was driving it, and how we could correct it.
So what kind of things did you do to overcome that?
The first thing we did is we reprioritized sort of the common objectives, and so made it very clear that winning, as it was defined, meant the region winning, that there was no first and second place prizes. So we clarified the objectives and the priorities and created some more common goals. We also created a task force, so tried to split up some of those silos. And so we had members of both North and South, and all of the sort of the departmental elements come together to take a look at our efficiencies and our process, with the intention of where are the redundancies, where are we inefficient, how can we shave off production time or build times. And so having them come together on a task force or a project was really effective. And then we looked at how people were rewarded for behavior. And so instead of departmental or siloed north-south objectives, everyone was sort of monetized from a performance bonus standpoint on the collective's success.
Beautiful. So that was, 2005, like we're looking quite a few years ago. There's been lots of experiences since then. Yes. So is there anything that you've learned recently that if you were to look back and do that all over again, is there anything that you would do differently or that you feel could have expedited that process?
Yes. So now over the last 10 years, 15 years, looking back at it, we approached that as sort of a one-off. Here we have a team culture issue. Right. Here's how we're going to resolve it. Okay. And then sort of started to take our eye off the ball again on that. And so what I've learned over the last 10 years is it's not a one-time fix. Okay. It's not a one-time issue. That
kind of a continuous ongoing
It's a continuous ongoing thing. And so you can't just like, oh, we have a problem, here's the fix, and then refocus on something else. That it is a continuing project. And I think I think there's an assumption that people inherently want to work in teams and know how to do it well. Yeah. And I think that's the exact opposite of all of our natural instincts.
I totally
our
agree.
Survival evolution.
That is my experience as well.
That is not at all
how
people will default in their settings. And
absolutely.
And so it is a constant item that we need to focus on, not to address it when there's an issue, because that was just symptomatic. There was easy symptoms to see that it wasn't, it wasn't an effective team situation, but it's an ongoing.
Absolutely. So you really need to have kind of an ongoing strategy for how to constantly invest in your people and your culture and your teams.
Absolutely.
It makes me think of this one activity that we do. So, we do a great deal of experiential processes and team building in our business. And I have this one activity that I use when companies come to me with with that kind of an issue, or they want to, drill down on that individual goal versus organizational goal. And so we do it with hula hoops and little foam pieces and poker chips and stuff, and divide them up into different departments, and then tell them what their end goal is, and they go through multiple stages. And I often get to kind of stage 2 or 3 where they've come up with a compromise solution, where essentially each department has not achieved what their goal was, but they'll come back to me and say, this is the best we can do.
Interesting.
So you say, well, corporately, so, is that okay at the end of the year? These are your corporate objectives. This is what every department needed to do. Nobody has hit it, but you feel like you've divided up the resources in your very best way possible, and this is the very best you can do. Is that okay? And if you push it a little bit more and really look outside the box, there is a really unique solution to that problem, where just like that, all of a sudden everybody is able to achieve their goals at 100%. So it's just a really fun visual way to say, whoa, like where else in our business are we saying this is good enough or this is all we can do, versus looking at it differently. And there is a way that if you break down those silos and start to truly look outside of departments or smaller groups and start looking at the holistic organization, that there's so much more you're capable of. So thank you for sharing that challenge. So what are some of the things that you do in your team within Cardell to really ensure you're leveraging all the strengths? In our experience, we find that diversity and, science, it's not just my experience, science proves that the more diverse your team is in cognitive thinking and personalities and strengths and skills and abilities, you're just going to be that much more efficient. But as you alluded to, teamwork is not, bringing these differences together is not our natural ability. So I think as leaders, I'm really always curious to hear how you go about tapping into the strengths within the diversity and overcoming some of those challenges that come with it.
Yeah, good question, because you're right. Thanks. Teamwork is not the default setting.
No, sure isn't.
And what's interesting about Cardell is we've had some very long-serving employees, and so sometimes the challenge is actually to force diversity rather than to try and contain it or leverage it, right? Because everyone's worked together for so long, they have shared experiences, they start to to see problem solving the same way because of those experiences. And so sometimes it's actually forcing some diversity or a different way of looking at it. And so we're really strong proponents of training and development and continuing education. And so sometimes you have to get that experience or other perspectives outside of the organization. And so we spend a lot of time investing, and I meet with employees on an annual basis to develop individual development plans around how they're going to keep both their skills sharp but also their perspectives broad, and so that they can bring new ideas, outside experiences to the table to do problem solving and move our company forward. So I would say Cardell lacks the diversity because we have employees that have been with the company for 20 years. Right. I mean, a common length of experience is 15 years at the company, and so that's a long time to just be doing it the way the company does it. So we're actually always struggling to make sure we're investing in diversity and sort of injecting it into the culture. Interesting perspective.
It's like the double-edged sword, right? People are always so quick to focus on turnover, and the turnover is really the challenge. And if you don't have turnover, then that's the win. But you're not the only company that I've talked to or worked with. Actually have a client that I've worked with that has incredible tenure. I was interviewing team members that have been in that role longer than I've been alive. And so, but that comes with, you're right, that kind of tenure and experience and expectations has a whole other realm of challenges with it. So interesting perspective. So if you could go back and give younger you a big piece of leadership advice, what do you think that would be?
I would say learn early on the difference between urgency and emergency.
Okay.
So that you can better understand sort of the entire context of an issue, because it's easy to run into the fire without knowing what caused it. Right. And so I think experience and making some mistakes start to teach you that, for example, you triaged one issue, but left the underlying issue unresolved. Yes. And so taking a step back and obviously working with urgency when there is something that's been identified that needs to be addressed, but not necessarily reacting as an emergency. So I would teach my younger self that, and that there are always so many different perspectives, and perspective doesn't equal truth, but it is still real.
It is very real.
It's still real.
Yep, absolutely.
And it's not just there's two sides to every story. There's a whole sort of quilt-like woven fabric of what's happening in any situation.
This is very true.
And it's not about right or wrong, and it's not about truth.
No.
Because there isn't anything.
Yeah.
It's just perspective and what people are experiencing in it. And so that's really where you have to start the conversations in anything, whether it's positive or negative. It's what are people's perspectives on this? What are they bringing to the table? Because if you get caught up in who was right or who was wrong or what the truth is, there's very little that's actual fact, and almost 99% of it's perception.
I always say there's this perspective, or this this side of the story and this side of the story, and the actual story is somewhere in the middle. Right? Like, you're absolutely right. What is truth? Right. We all are looking at the world through our own unique lens, and that comes from everything. I mean, the way our brains are wired, the experiences we've had, the day we've had, how much sleep we had the night before, exactly right. Our phase of our life. So thank you for being so real. I think that's a really good point around, as a leader, being able to take that step back. I love that emergency versus urgency, and not getting caught up. I think emotional intelligence goes a lot into that as well. Not just really getting caught up in the day-to-day or firefighting, I think, as I have some people have referred. Being able to take that step back and look at it through a different lens and actually see what's going on, so you can deal with the root cause of the problem rather than just the the, taming that actual beast right
and
there.
both roles need to be done, but I think
Totally.
that's where you identify the leadership role from the management role or the line supervisor role,
Absolutely.
right? So the fire still needs to get put out.
Totally.
There is an immediate need to address that,
Yeah.
but it's not the leader's role to do that. The leader's role, it's to stay the forest for the trees,
Totally.
it's to look further out, so it's to figure out what's caused
Yeah.
the fire, not to fight the fire.
That's awesome. So the last question I'm going to ask is, what is the impact that you want to have as a leader looking forward?
I would like to develop other leaders. So I've spent the last probably 2 or 3 years actively, consciously trying to build my own network of professionals, of identifying people that have more experience than me, that can be mentors to me, who are willing to take on that role, because I see incredible value in that, and in growing my own career and sharing experiences like you're doing today. So I've been obviously benefiting from that exercise, and I would like, if I can fast forward another 10 years, to be in a position where I can do the same for other people. And I think especially, the Generation Z and some of the millennials, I think they can really benefit. I'm late in the game recognizing how beneficial a mentor can be and that network can be. But I think I would like to be able to pass it on, because I think leaders, their real purpose is to develop future leaders. And that would be what I'd want my legacy to be.
That's beautiful. And if there's a way that you can expedite that for somebody else, we've worked in the experiential, world for so long that I can just see the power of what one experience can do for an individual, for teams, and you're right, that's what we're trying to do with this initiative, is be able to, hear some of the challenges that you've had and some of the things that you've overcome, and hopefully somebody will listen to this online at some point, and you can inspire some future leaders there and carry out your impact in the world. So thank you for chatting with me today.
You're welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. And good luck with the upcoming year with you and Cardell.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.